Welcome back to Crimson Cast, ladies and gentlemen. Indiana is the national champions in football. Scott, I love the logo. I haven't actually bought any of that stuff yet. Scott's got the officially logoed one yet. I've not even had time to shop.
At the game. Everybody, good to see you all. I think, are you effing kidding me? But yes, bought it at the game. I walked around, and on the Miami side, it wasn't as busy to start the game, so we went to that merch tent. Yeah.
Nice. Scott, we got so much to talk about. We were both there in Miami as Indiana goes down there and beats the Miami Hurricanes in their own building, 27-21, completes an undefeated season, no ties, first time in school history, 16-0, first team to do that since, the William McKinley administration? Yeah. Might have actually been before McKinley. Silencing, at least for 6 hours, the doubters. They started right back up the next day. And Indiana doesn't need to listen to the doubters. We don't need to listen to the doubters because Indiana went out and did it on the field. They went out and essentially did what they did all season. A couple more mistakes than normal, but they overcame those mistakes in a way that their opponents could not. And they bring home a championship in football, as improbable as that sounds, for this fan base, for themselves, for the school. I mean, it is – we've been basking in this now for about, 36 hours, a little bit less than that.
Right.
And it still hasn't sunk in. I don't think it's going to sink in for a while. But what I do know is, as now I've got some time to reflect, now I've got some time to think about how momentous this is. It gets more special by the hour. And Scott, I'm going to start off by saying kind of what you and I were just talking about before we got started. Like, I hope people are taking time to savor this. We had Stephen Godfrey and Richard Johnson, two very well-known and respected podcast voices at our Crimson Cast event on Sunday night. And, Godfrey said something that resonated with me then, and it resonates with me today. This is as good as it's going to get. Like, it can stay this good.
Right.
It can stay this good moving forward. But what Indiana did here is the greatest American sports story we've ever seen told. And it is a championship that is all the sweeter because it comes out of nothing. It comes as a complete surprise. It is a championship that not only puts Indiana at the top of the mountain, but it's a championship that broke college football in the process. And we're going to talk about all that and why it broke college football. But what I think is important for IU fans is that you let this emanate around you. It will eventually get inside you. Whether you've been euphoric already or whether you're still trying to figure out, where is that feeling going to come from as you move forward, I can say this. What Indiana has done is something that everybody that is an Indiana fan now, whether you are in your 80s or 90s or whether you are in the single digits and just getting started with your IU fandom, this is something that all of you will be able to carry with you for the rest of your sports fan lives. And for those people that were in the building, or for those people that were back in Bloomington celebrating in the bars or out in the streets, or for those of you that were in your living rooms, you know how special that felt right at the end. But this is a feeling that can last for a long, long time, and it should, because it is the triumph, as Curt Cignetti said in the post-game press conference, of doing hard work, doing it the right way. There's no magic formula, as Pat Coogan said. This is what happens when you get a group of players together and they go out and work towards a common goal and they have great coaching. And honestly, it's also what happens when a fan base turns out the way that they did. Scott, you and I were in that building. We were in the building in Atlanta. We were out there for the Rose Bowl. Indiana's fans deserve at least a small piece of this championship for the way that they affected all of those games, including, a critical penalty at the beginning of Miami's last drive and the way that they were noisy throughout the course of the game. This was such a singular event. I think it's the thing I'm going to remember the most, and then I'm going to shut up and let you talk for a while. But the team, the coaches, and the fans unifying in these venues like they've unified at Memorial Stadium all year. I mean, it is a force that reaffirmed what and frankly become kind of a cynical heart that I've had about sports for a while. This is why I find sports to be so compelling, is that just when you think you've seen it all, just when you think you've experienced everything that you can possibly experience, something like this happens and it flips the switch right back on again. And it's like, this is why we spend all this money. This is why we spend all this time. This is why these players work as hard as they do. It's why these coaches sacrifice so much. It's for moments like this. And I think the greatest thing about this championship for Indiana is that it demonstrates once again that these moments can happen. And it's why we keep coming back. And it's probably been the thing that's made me the most emotional since the game ended.
That's unbelievably well said. I don't even know how to follow that as somebody who talks more than I should. I will, a couple things that I'll weave off of there. First, just one joke. People, a lot of people were asking, like, what was the fan, after the Peach Bowl, was like, what was the fan breakup at Hard Rock Stadium? And I would say 68%. And I say that because if you were in the stadium, they did this like poll of what song do you want played in the fourth quarter? It was like ABBA and a Journey song, and then Hurt So Good by Mellencamp. And I'm like, well, that's every IU fan is doing that one. And it's like, that was 68%. And of course it won. And that was one of many little moments I will remember. We've both been saying a similar thing. I've been saying this, that, along this run from the Big Ten title to the Rose Bowl to the Peach Bowl to the national championship, each game has been like a snowflake. Like each game has been different emotions, different feeling. And this one was also no different. As I bask in this, I give, my friend does radio in Washington, Indiana, Brian Edmonds. He texted me the morning after the game. He's like, dude, I had a weird dream last night. It was funny. I stole it and put it on Twitter. But I will, like, literally, I woke up the next morning in my Airbnb. I saw that text. I chuckled, and then I'm like, shit, I got to go to ESPN. This really did happen. And I checked the score, and it's like, yes, we won. The thing that's been kind of sticking with me that I'm starting to internalize is, we grew up in a world where Indiana had won 5 basketball titles. But I was saying, to some friends and family on the flight home, is like, the thing is that's amazing about this is Keith Smart's shot always goes in. I mean, like, that's codified in history, that Smart shot, you can watch that clip a million times. I mean, AI can change stuff, but like that shot goes in. The shot of Isaiah Thomas, gliding to the basket, that happened. And it's never going to change. And we look back on this, like, Fernando Mendoza is always going to score that touchdown. Like, every time you watch that play, he's always going to spin, his knees not going to touch, and he's going to score that touchdown. And I know it sounds simple, but it is so wild to have been there, seen it. And it's like, I think we're all feeling a weird range of emotions, from elation to like, oh my God, like, is this what it feels like to sadness that it's over. But that's what's been kind of, I'm really enjoying that feeling of like, we lived through it and now it's set in stone and it's there. And so that's something that's really been good for me. But like you, I look back, I've been, I'm going to remember the entire run from, honestly, last season to this season, but that Big Ten title game all the way through, scheduling plans, talking to you, where are we going? How are we doing this? Like, that was we're leaving the stadium. It's me, my wife, my son, and 3 of my best friends. And one of them was just like, and he's been to 2 of the 3 games with me. And he's like, I don't know what to do now. Like, I'm so used to planning trips. Like, what if I just go home and don't go anywhere else for next week? So that's, I mean, but yes, that is where my head is at. But, that idea that, Becker's always going to make those catches. Cooper's foot is always going to be good in the Penn State game. Like, this was an undefeated season. It's always there. And I mean, yeah, you started with like, the doubters and all that. It's like, who cares? To me, the biggest thing we need to worry about now is where we put a national championship banner or memorial on Memorial Stadium. Like, that's the only thing we need to worry about. That's what we can discuss. That's what we can doubt. But, that's what it's an unbelievable feeling, man. Like, having been there, it's awesome. So yeah, I will end with that, and then we can keep kind of going in different directions. But
Wow.
It's unreal, man. I mean, it is a dream I never knew I had. I think of that line in Ghostbusters by Egon, where he has the Twinkie and he's like, this is beyond any rational like capability of my, or like, this is beyond any rational thought that I have in my mind or something. It's like, this is beyond expectations of what I ever thought. And we're here and it happened and it's always going to have happened.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it'll settle in. We'll see this always listed in the lists of national champions. This team will go down in history, not just Indiana history. I mean, they will be number one with a bullet in Indiana history, but they'll go down in college football.
I'm waiting for people to be like, I don't know, man. The 2016 team was just a slight.
No, actually, the 20 or 24 team, if they play decent. No. This
you look at the road splits.
This team will go down not just in Indiana history, but in national history. And Fernando Mendoza's dive into the end zone on that quarterback draw, as I heard many national commentators say after the game, will go down as one of the most iconic plays in college football playoff history, in college football history. And, it's that kind of legend building. It's that kind of entering the historical context of the sport. That's what Indiana has been missing. When we hear all these talks about who the blue bloods are or who belongs in the conversation about college football, college football, the way that we think about it culturally, it's structured in moments in time. It's structured in individual plays that weave this tapestry that makes up our collective consciousness of the sport, probably more so than almost any other sport. The NFL a little bit because they do such a great job of self-mythologizing and they have their own films team and so forth. But college football, it's anecdotes, it's people being there for certain games. And then when television entered into the equation or radio was there, it's those moments that you can hear and see. And Fernando Mendoza's touchdown and Indiana's championship have entered into that conversation. They can't be taken out, and they will cause a reevaluation for a lot of people about what college football is and how it works. And you're in the club now if you're Indiana, if you're Indiana fans. Like now things change forever. And that's a great place to be. It'll be different. But now things change forever. And I think we're all just grappling with that change taking place and us being in the midst of it. And when you're inside the change as it's happening, as you and I have been and many fans have been here over the last several months, as this team took shape and went out and slayed all the dragons that were placed in front of it, I think you can lose a little bit of the perspective that you need to really be able to digest where and how you've now entered into the conversation and joined the club. So that's what we aim to excavate here on Crimson Cast.
I'll just say the other thing with that Mendoza play, I would take a national championship any day. I would take it any way, anyhow. But what is also just so cool and so much great icing on the cake is, that's what was really cool about that 1987 basketball championship is you won it, but you have an iconic play. Whenever you talk about great games and, the great moments of college basketball, Keith Smart's shot is up there. And the fact, and national champions happen every year in football. Obviously, there's game like whoever was like Georgia beat TCU like by 44-10. It's one of those games like it happened, like they won, and like I don't remember anything from that game. Michigan won a couple years ago. It's like they beat Washington. Like nothing really monumental from that play. Not only did we win, but great, but like to also get this play, this moment it's almost like it's like the rich. It's just so much like I can't believe that we not only got this, we had a moment, and that'll be played over and over again. When you talk about like the great plays in the championship games, it's like there's Mendoza's play, and for it to be Mendoza, this is the thing that I've been saying. And give me a second here. I got like 2 points, and just let me run for a minute on two things. But one is, the public perception of Mendoza is, is aw shucks, crazy interviews, eating dino nuggets and mac and cheese and loves his mom and all that. It really, you're missing the point, because when he gets on the field, the guy is a killer. Like he wants to play football. He's out there to die for his players. And that's what I love is that his singular play in this game is that where it's like, I'm going to give my heart and soul to get this team over the line and make my play. And for those of us who watched it all year, we've seen it. But it's just, if you're nationally, it's like, oh, this is just, a cute kid who, probably doesn't play. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Just to add on to that.
Yeah.
In the moment, I tweeted, I'm going to clean up the language for the podcast, but I tweeted, that was some John Elway in the Broncos-Packers Super Bowl stuff from Mendoza. Another iconic play, another play in the lore of the NFL that has defined the story. And it was the demonstration of a player who, in different cases, whether it was Elway back in 98 or whether it was Mendoza here, they didn't necessarily need to do that, but it was a manifestation of how much they wanted to win in the moment and what they were willing to potentially sacrifice in order to make that happen. And that was woven into the fabric of this entire team throughout the course of the year. Go ahead.
No, I totally agree. And if you watch, it's like, what I love about Mendoza is not only does he do that, he does like the IU that every player has now been doing when they score a touchdown. But there's one shot, it's tough to find. If you see him, then he walks back to the sideline and does the Heisman. It's like, I mean, the guy has some swag, but to a larger point, the thing that I want everyone to just bask and enjoy over these next couple of days, if you go to the celebration on Saturday, the thing to just keep in mind is, to me, it's a happy thought. It's a sad thought. But, and to anybody who's saying stuff from the outside, the thing that is so unique about this and this team, and I've been trying to reiterate this over the last couple of pods coming in, is just, this is such a perfect marriage of a team and a fan base. Is that, 6 months ago, I would take a title any possible way, and I still would. It would be different if we had just gotten a bunch of, if you just ported Ohio State's 5 stars onto our team, and it's like, hey, here's your new, New York Yankees team, and like they win with that. And it's like, okay, that was fun. That was interesting. But the thing is, you have a fan base that has been forgotten, left out, made fun of, disregarded, just for 125 years, longer than we've been around. Little peaks, but mostly just valleys, and not even like just disregarded in the Big Ten world, in the college football world, and almost thought of as like, why do you guys even try? To marry that with a coach who has the backstory that Cignetti has, of a guy who's been toiling and trying to get shots. He's not the Dan Lanning or the hot young assistant who feels like he's just kind of the road has been paved his way. It's like he's had to earn everything and go the road less traveled and just gets his shot. You add that with just this cast of players. And I don't want to forget somebody, but you have Aiden Fisher, just an unbelievable familial, his stepfather, his father, his stepfather, a 0-star recruit. Nobody cared about him. Elijah Surratt, his story, Mendoza, the whole thing with that. To have all of those stories and those players who, their backstories with massive chips on their shoulders, with a coach, with this fan base. I keep telling people who are not Indiana fans, like, I hate saying this, but unless you're part of it, you don't understand how special this is, that any first title would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have these connections, and it's like, I've said this and I say it again, like, there will be other teams, maybe we'll win another title. I really don't know if I will love another team as much as I loved this team. And that was the worst part for me on Monday night, was like, I just want to see these guys play more. I want to see them celebrate more. I'm going to miss all of that because, I was telling somebody else the morning after, he's like, dude, it's already different. Like, Alberto Mendoza's transfer, like, we're not going to get into that, but it's like, things are already, like, the alchemy is slightly different. It can still be great, but it's just like, that is the part that I want everyone to just continue to savor, is just how special this marriage is. And it feels so singular that Indiana football got this coach and this team.
No, I think that's a great point. And look, I don't think you have to diminish the future to celebrate the present.
Right.
But I've said very similar things, is that I am certain that there are going to be great teams that Curt Cignetti coaches at Indiana moving forward.
I think so.
I don't think there's going to be another team that will connect with the fan base as much as this team connects with the fan base. It's really the perfect team for how Indiana football fans feel about their own place in the national college football landscape. Indiana fans and the Indiana program has been disregarded, left behind, made fun of, picked over, avoided, or just lampooned by so many pundits, by so many other teams' fans. We've been laughed at for years. We've been laughed at the last 2 years, with very few exceptions. Shout out Oregon fans. This has not been a welcome party to the college football upper tier. It's been a lot of just, really disgusting conversation about not belonging and not being able to measure up. And you look at this team and this roster and this coach, a coach, as we all know the story, who had to go all the way down to the Division II level to get a head coaching opportunity to carry on his family's legacy, had to work his way up from there, had to piece together assistants who were living in sub-poverty conditions in shared housing or were homeless because they had a dream of being able to do something in this sport, and to watch them work their way up and to have them be able to come to Indiana and finally get the platform and the resources that they need to put together the type of team and the type of system and the type of process that they knew would work in this environment, and to bring a bunch of players in, most of whom were either disregarded or cast off or never even looked at in the first place to be cast off, or to have players stick around from the previous coaching regime, a program that had gone from what felt like a decent plateau back to those valleys, those depths that you were talking about. To watch all of that come together over a 2-year span, and to watch that alchemy result in a 16-0 season, a season that Steve Sarkisian at Texas said, well, that's never going to happen again, and if they do, build the statue to whoever does it. Well, build the damn statue, because this group did it.
Yeah.
Curt Cignetti did it. His assistants did it. These players did it, whether they came from James Madison, whether they even started at a Division II school in Pennsylvania, whether they were denied a walk-on opportunity at the University of Miami, whether they were slightly regarded folks coming off of the Tom Allen recruiting process. They figured out a way to put it together and make it happen. And to watch them, with all the doubts, even after last year, when they put together a season that should have been celebrated, but was instead acted as like, a bacterial infection that needed to be cleansed from the sport because it was interfering with the purity of what people thought college football should be. Right. To watch them go through this season and obliterate Illinois, and go into Iowa and win, and go into Oregon and win, and go into Penn State and win for the first time in program history, and to beat Ohio State on a neutral field when you had more Indiana fans than Ohio State fans in the stands, and to play Alabama, the crown jewel of the college football establishment, and embarrass them in the Rose Bowl on national television in the most watched game up to that point in the CFP's history. And then to go into Atlanta and play that same Oregon team who everybody said you couldn't beat a second time and embarrass them, sorry, Oregon fans, again. And then to go down into Miami's home stadium and outnumber them in the stands and beat them at their own game. That, for Indiana fans who love to pride themselves on doing things the right way, who love to pride themselves on hard work, not flashiness, who love to pride themselves on process. I don't know that you'll ever have such a combination as what we've seen here over the last couple of years, Scott, where you get this type of group, this type of coaching staff, and this type of season all come together and culminate in a national championship. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that legend is made of. And the fact that we were all here to witness that, I will always cherish. And I think everybody in the fan base should feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm just giving that a minute. That was great. Just giving that a minute to go. That's fantastic. The other thing that I've loved throughout these final games, but even the games all season, I'll say last year and this year, has been, there's always little exceptions off to the side. But as these crowds have gone to these stadiums and we've seen us outnumber other fan bases, it's been so jovial and communal and happy. Walking around and just seeing fans and seeing, for me, everyone's seeing friends and family. That's something I've always continue to hear is these people that are like, man, I went down there, I saw some friends from college and high school, and like me growing up in Bloomington, being a townie, I'm seeing so many people that I knew from, just different walks of Bloomington. I know for sure the same with you, but most of the time, we weren't interacting with a lot of Oregon fans because there weren't a lot there in Atlanta. But the few times that I saw interactions with, we'll get Miami's a little separate, but like Alabama fans or Ohio State fans, it wasn't us talking smack to them. It was just us doing our chants and high-fiving each other. And it's kind of like, it didn't even notice that the other fan bases were there because we're so happy. It's like a family reunion, like I've said many times, but it was so happy and jovial. And like, can you believe this? And, in Miami, there was a little more animosity, but at least from my perspective, it all came from Miami fans kind of, again, that kind of snide chiding at us. But I was always so impressed and so happy with how positive the IU fan base was at all of these events. And I loved, one of my favorite moments was being in the Fort Lauderdale airport on Tuesday morning, just overrun with Indiana fans. Everyone's wearing their gear. And we're all kind of just looking at each other, smiling, and just kind of like giggling. like I see somebody like, hey, can you believe that? And then just like we keep walking, and then see someone at Hudson News just be like, just like look at him, and it's like, can you believe it? Yeah. And I will say we were in line
as we're going through the air.
We're in line at the Southwest to line up, and it's a big gate A1, and a woman walks by and she's just like, hey, I'm an Ohio State fan, but I was rooting for your guys, and I'm so damn happy for you. And we all kind of cheer. And then it's like, and they're all quiet. And the guy behind me is like, man, I just, I get it, but I hope there's not a Hoosiers chant on this flight. I'm done. Like, I just can't do it anymore.
Oh man. It's I know the communal aspects of this. We got to see so many people out in Pasadena, in Atlanta, in Miami, whether it was at our events or whether it was just at the stadiums or out in the lots. And I talked to so many IU fans for whom this playoff run in particular has reconnected them with the university, has reconnected them with people that they went to school with. It's really awesome to watch Indiana fans be able to connect again over Indiana University athletics, and specifically football, which has always been the biggest of the big tents. I mean, as much as basketball has been a key part of how we define ourselves as Indiana fans, this is what you can get with football. This is the kind of culture that you can build. And Indiana fans love their sports. They love the teams. They love the players. And, what makes that work is success and being able to share in positive moments. And the fact that this fairy tale had the Hollywood ending gives everybody a moment that they can look back on and use as a touchstone for continuing to do this. This doesn't have to be a one-time thing. It doesn't have to be a thing where we don't ever get together again. It was the most special thing to me as, a person who went to school here in the 90s and early 2000s, as a person who was a grad student here in the 00s, as a person who came back as a faculty member, and I now have 17 years of students that I've worked with. It was so special watching people from all of those different eras come together around being here for this team and being able to celebrate this accomplishment and feel like they were playing a part in it. And to be able to be like, all the pictures I saw from the people that I know on Instagram or on Twitter, the pictures from the stands, the pictures from the tailgate before the game, the pictures from the events, and they're with people that I can remember seeing them with 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. That really resonated with me. And it's something that I hope we continue. I mean, as much as this team was special, the moments with your friends and the people that you've known for a long time are special. And I know for me, I got a chance to reconnect with several folks I haven't talked to in 20 years. And it was because of this run that IU football has been on. And I got a chance to connect with so many people I never met before, who we now realize we occupy the same landscape in terms of loving Indiana football and wanting to go and watch them play. And these are the things that can happen when you get a coach that knows what they're doing and a staff that knows what they're doing and players that know what they're doing, and they draw those people back in, and people feel an affinity for it. They feel a connection to it. And I hope that the connections that you either established or reestablished with other people who are in this gigantic party we call the IU alumni base or the IU fan base, I hope you maintain those. Like, let's keep getting together over Indiana football. What Indiana fans did at the Rose Bowl, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the Peach Bowl, at Hard Rock for the national championship game. We can do that every year, and I hope we do. And I'm glad we've been able to play a small part in bringing some of those folks together. It's been great to have the events we've had beforehand, and it's just like it's amazing to me the feeling that brings you, or brings me at least. I know it brings you the same feeling, and it's the thing I'll remember most, other than the actual results of the games and those great plays that we talked about. I'm going to remember the memories that were made during this whole stretch with the people that I've either known or now that I do know. I hope we continue this feeling for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the things I did before every bowl game, didn't do it at Lucas Oil because Lucas Oil is tough to kind of walk in a circle, but I would get there early and just kind of walk the stadium once. I did that at Miami a couple times because we were there 3.5 hours early because we were told many times and it was a good idea. I'm struck by how I ended up seeing everybody I wanted to see along the run. And it's like you said, I bumped into old friends from when I grew up in Bloomington. I bumped into high school friends. I bumped into people I've known through the podcast, people I hadn't met, but through the podcast I've met. There's Todd, who was at he was the Big Ten title game, sat behind me, and then sat behind me at the national championship game. He's the one who had a $4,000 bet on Indiana to win the Big Ten before the season. That was awesome. I bumped into my dad's wife's cousin, Steve, who'd been going to games for 45 years, and I haven't seen him in 5 or 6 years. And we bumped into each other at Miami, and just walking around, I was struck by just how I saw everybody I wanted to see at the right time. It was just almost cinematic. I'm going to come back to the cinematic thing, but the the thing that I heard this last night, I thought about it more. You and I had both kind of played in these waters about what would it be like to win a title with our favorite team. And we both, for different reasons, kind of were at arm's length of the Colts, which we don't need to get into, but the Colts won a title and that was awesome. It wasn't really my team. The Pacers were there, one of my favorite teams, and really close this year. And it's all right, well, I guess a title is just not in the cards for me. And then to get this, it's so special because, for me, I grew up in Bloomington. Like you, I went to IU. We went to IU together, had classes together, or worked together at WIUS, and did have the night class together. But it's so much like the Pacers are here, but there's a connection there, and that it's a basketball team that's in Indiana. Like the connection to IU runs so much deeper, because if you're ever around Bloomington, it's that's IU. The Sample Gates are part of that, and not that I'm saying not breaking news on Crimson Cast, but pro teams can move. They can move and just be peace, we're out. We're going to become the Seattle Pacers. Not saying it's going to happen. Universities don't move. And there's a connection there. And, you can be a fan of the Pacers, but we're Hoosiers. In the end, we are Indiana Hoosiers. We have connections. Even if you didn't go to IU and you're just a fan, you've probably been there for games. Even if you've never been to Bloomington, you understand that connection. You can live in Bloomington, not have gone to IU. But for me, just that connection point, and knowing that, generations of my family have gone to IU. I have cousins who I haven't talked to in a while who were texting me, and it brought me closer to family. It just meant so much. I'm just going to one little thing here, and then we can move on to other. There's so many. We're kind of going in random directions. I just want to share just pictures from the game. 2 pictures from the game. There's me, my son, and my wife. Just, if you're watching this, that is Scott with utter joy, trying to take a picture. The fact that I'm there with my son, who's 13, who's at the perfect age for this, and that he got to experience this, just it's I can't put it in words what that means to me. And then I was able to also go with 3 of my best friends from high school. three of my lifetime best friends. We all grew up in Bloomington. So there's me, Tom, Matt, Teddy, who I've talked about before, just there at the game. I know it's a little bit of self-service Scott stuff, but whatever. It's my podcast, our podcast. I get to do it. But just the joy in all of our faces and the fact we got to do it. And like you said, it brought us all together. Just unbelievable. I will come back to you with this point where my wife and I were talking about this last night. You mentioned the cinematic piece of it. That's the part that I find wild is the more you start digging into the threads of this, it's unreal. Because if you just said, and this is Cignetti said it after this, to make a hell of a movie. If you just put this plot of just, hey, we're going to take the worst team in football and make them a juggernaut, you'd be like, well, I don't like just that plot alone. You'd be like, I'm not sure. Like that's a lot to throw in one movie that doesn't seem to make sense. But then it's like, hey, I want to layer a couple things. Like we're just going to do a writer's room here. I want the quarterback to have grown up a half a mile from Miami, not get picked up by that team. And then let's have them play them in the final game. It's like, are you sure? Well, I want to add something to it. How about his dad plays high school football with the coach of that team? It's like, okay, man, like this is a little like, seriously, you want to make this a movie that people believe in? And it's like, well, I got an idea. How about we have a linebacker for that Miami team? He knocks out Mendoza last season. Just to have him knock him out in a really vicious hit. But then Mendoza's big play, have him go against the same guy at the very end. It's like, you're throwing a lot in there. Like, all right, we can put all that. Like, wait, I got one more thing. The final interception, we'll have it be by a guy whose uncle caused Miami to lose their last national championship game. Like, you keep digging at these threads, and it's like the connections here are just unbelievable. And to call it a cinematic Hollywood ending, it's like there will be a movie or a documentary made at some point, and all of us fans, if they make a movie and they cinematize this, they're not going to be able to capture all of these pieces. And, and if it's 70 years from now, people will be like, that's total BS. Like, there's no way that actually happened, but we were here and it did. And I've loved getting into all of these connection points with all of that. And the last thing I will say, just the weirdest connection point at all, is I've talked about my dad on this podcast many times. He got me, moved us to Bloomington. We went to so many more basketball games than football games, and a lot of football games. It just means something to me, but it's wild that my dad passed away last year. That's not wild, but my dad went to Cal, loved Cal, and then came to Bloomington and fell in love with IU. And it's like the quarterback that brought us to a 16-0 team was from Cal and then came to IU. So it's just like the connection points are staggering in that respect.
No, it's been fascinating for me too. I mean, from the perspective of my own personal history, like having taught at the University of Miami,
the Galen Bowl.
And honestly, the 2 years
Right.
that I spent down there and seeing what their program was at the time and how the games were and how the tailgates were, it helped to define in my own mind what a program that exists in the upper echelons of college football was. And I'd never experienced that really as an Indiana student or as an Indiana fan at that point. And I flew down Friday. I actually changed my flight and flew down about 8 hours earlier because I just needed to get down there, and we had some events we had to scout and so forth. But I went down to campus, to the University of Miami's campus, and I'm walking around down there on Saturday, and I was hit with this flood of memories of being exposed to big time college football environments and really being like, oh, okay, I kind of get this sport now in a way that I never got before. Because as you know, and this is the type of thing we talk about with the history of Indiana football, the big games never really felt that big. There weren't moments. There wasn't this fervor in the stands. If there was, it was Ohio State fans coming into the building. And I thought about that. And then I thought about everything that we've experienced over the last 2 years under Curt Cignetti and how the build has been so quick. But what we've seen is an organic fan experience and fan culture around Indiana football grow up. And look, it's not just the lifers like you and me, the people that have been going to games for years, or the folks that we know in the audience that have been going to games for 40, 50, 60 years, maybe more. It's It's the young people who are just coming in and they're like, I want to go to a football school. I'm going to go to Indiana. It's the new fans who maybe didn't feel like IU football fandom had anything for them that have now realized that it does. And the atmosphere in Memorial Stadium and the atmosphere we've seen these fans carry into these neutral site stadiums, they say, as they play in Miami's home stadium,
Right.
has been
We're on our first defense. They have like a Miami like hurricane warning thing. It's like, guys, you can't do that.
Right. But that was a real full circle for me, because like my conceptualization of what this could look like started down there, and then to watch Indiana go full circle against that team in their own building was very special. I want to do one last thing before we go to break, and then we're going to talk about the game itself. I think the thing that stuck with me the most about the feeling that I've gotten off of this team, and I've talked about this as I've talked with some of the reporters that have called and wanted to interview me, because I've entered into the media exchanges. Oh, this guy's been following IU football for a long time. I was talking with Joel Anderson from The Ringer. I've talked with a couple of other folks who were writers for national publications. And one of the questions they keep asking is, like, why did you stick with Indiana football? Why have you continued to be a fan given how historically bad the program has been? And there's a lot of reasons why, and I'm not going to go into all of them here, but the end point I wanted to get to is that, I think I said this on Twitter last night. This is, I'm 46 years old. This is the team that I have the deepest emotional connection with of any of the teams that I root for. IU basketball, as much as I love IU basketball, has always felt like it belonged to my parents' generation. The Colts kind of came a little bit later in, and yes, that run that the Colts had in the mid 2000s was really special, but it never really felt like a team that I could get emotionally connected with in quite the same way. The Pacers, as great as that run was last year, there's whole decades where it feels like the Pacers are kind of an afterthought from a cultural perspective. And I'm sure that there's people that feel much more deeply about them, just like I'm sure there's people that feel deeply about the Colts. But for me, IU football has been the thing that I've had the deepest emotional connection with. And I think what I'm having the most trouble processing, and why I'm not putting pressure on myself to process it, is to have the team that you feel the deepest about win a national title, go undefeated, climb every mountain that's put in front of them, is such an incredibly fulfilling thing as a sports fan. It's what everybody wants as a sports fan, is the team that you care the most about, to prove to everybody else that they're the best in any given year. I think for a lot of people who feel the way I do, it's going to take a while for that kind of thing to set in, especially with Indiana football, because that fandom, that depth of emotional connection, was never about championships or never about big payoffs, as Connor Hitchcock said. It was about the small moments, the little things that gave you hope, the little things that kept you coming back even when you were facing disappointment. And to watch a big thing, a huge payoff happen, and to be there in the stadium or be there at home with the team that you care that much about is truly, I think, the most special feeling that you can have as a sports fan. It's what we chase in sports fandom. And that, I couldn't be more grateful to the team and the coaches and the university for making this happen, and for allowing us fans to be along for the ride, to be able, for those of us that care that deeply about Indiana football as an institution, to be able to savor this moment and to have created the moment in the first place, so that we can move forward and always have that as now a touchstone within what that fandom is defined as.
Yeah, no, I'm very similar in that I thought IU basketball was my connection, but I've come to realize over the last couple of years that it is IU football, that like that is my team for exactly the same reasons you said. Is, we when we moved back in 09, we got season tickets and just kind of became we just started going And it's like, I've always loved, and even back to like, I remember being in St. Louis watching, Austin Starr make that kick at an IU alumni event. And, IU basketball would kind of ebb and flow sometimes when they were bad. I would still watch the games but not check in. But yeah, it's like football has always been there. I would go to games with my buddy Tom. We see Von Dunbar. But the thing that I think about is just, we'll kind of end on a humorous note here. It's for both you and me, just where we've come and where we are is that. So I'm going to pick on both of us. I remember at that time when you were in Miami and I just moved back to Indiana, I remember we had a conversation and I'm like, I'm going to get IU football season tickets. And you're like, why? I'm like, well, because I like college football. Like it's fun. It's fun. And you're like, well, then get tickets for a real college football team. Like, I'm not making fun of you because I have a story about myself too. And it's like, yeah. I always think about that because at the time it's like this, like, well, but I use my team. Like that's where I went to school. Like, I'm not going to go to Purdue anyway. So I thought about that a lot the last couple of weeks. But I also thought about this is that when I had James, my son, we started taking him to games and he was 9 months old. And people were like, man, you're true. It's like, well, that's what we're going to do as a family. Like, we're going to tailgate. We're going to have fun. But my joke always was like, look, what I'm going to do is Memorial Stadium has the flags of every Big Ten team wrapping the stadium. And I used to say, this is why I would say when he's 13, which he's 13 now, like he's 13, I'm going to take him on the field and I'm going to say, pick one. Like, I'm in this hellscape. You don't need to live in this hellscape. Just pick a different flag. Like, I hope it's not Ohio State, fingers crossed. But I'm like, my joke was like, even Northwestern makes a freaking Rose Bowl every 50 years. Pick one. Illinois, they made a BCS. Like, you'll be happier, son. Like, just go. And that was always my joke. People would laugh. The seasons would change. We'd come back another season. And it's wild to think now back to that picture of me and James, him, dying to get the home field IU jacket, like wanting to buy championship merch. And it's like, it's just hitting me now live. Like I would always say 13, like he turned 13 January 17th. So we had his birthday party. We took his friends to the Harlem Globetrotters on Saturday. And then he and my mom and then his mother and my wife, him and me flew down to Miami. And one of his buddies was like, damn, you had a hell of a birthday weekend. But it's thinking back to that used to be my joke. And that now where we are, where it's like, no, I wouldn't want to be any other flag than Indiana right now.
Just to give a little context, my comment about that was coming off the heels of a 62-10 loss to Purdue and a season ender where we finished being outscored 96-17 in the last two games of the season. So forgive me.
I'm not picking on you at all. It's
forgive me for a moment of weakness, but it is funny looking back on that. That was what, 17, 18 years ago. And,
and I know you're trying to get to break, but like this is another thing that's been fun. You have a different number than I do. Everyone has a number. We've been kind of playing this game with me and my friends at the last two bowl games. We now have 16 wins. But it was, how many wins did IU have in your 4 years at school?
I know.
And so I went 96 to 2000. We were 13. My wife and I had 13 total wins over our 4 years. One of my buddies went 95 to 99. It's like, oh, you picked up a Mallory year, so you're still at 0 and 11. I think that was, or something like that was it, the last Mallory year. And I should have wrote it down somewhere. Someone on Twitter or on Instagram it was a radio show, was like, if you there's 126 years of football, and if you just assume every player plays 4 years, which isn't the case, but to take like 4-year segments, it's something like 65% of anybody who played 4 years at IU didn't win 16 games. And so like most, more than likely, more than half of anybody who went to IU for 4 years as a fan didn't see as many wins in their time as we just saw this season. And I know you're in the exact same boat, because it's not like they picked up a bunch the year after I left.
Yeah. We need to come up with a name for that. It's like your karmic Indiana football account or something like that. How many wins did you have in your 4 years in Bloomington? We'll workshop that. We got to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to do Recite the Drives. We're going to dive in a little bit to the game. I've got I think a funny anecdote that ties into some of the stuff we just talked about. But back right after this on the Back Home Network here on Crimson Cast.
If you're not listening to Sideline Stories with Trisha Whitaker and Sydney Parrish, you're missing great stories like this.
When you interviewed Cignetti, did you know that he was the type of character that he is and so outspoken and just like what we call a soundbite machine?
No, not really, but I did realize in the first phone conversation how he was just so authentic. Literally at the end of the conversation, I'll never forget it. And I thought about Coach Knight a little bit because I'd heard that people asked Coach Knight when he took the Indiana job and they'd say, "Why did you go to Indiana?" And he said, "Because I could win there." So I'm on the phone with Coach Sig, and at the end, I said, "Do you think you could win here?" And he said, "Scott, let me just tell you this. If I have average resources, I will win. Trust me." I remember thinking, I believe it. I really did. And I remember hanging up, and I called President Whitten. I said, "Hey, I just finished up with Coach Cignetti," and I said, "Hey, I think he's different."
Sideline Stories is part of the Back Home Network. Subscribe on YouTube and Spotify.
Sideline Stories coming back later today, I think. They'll have a special championship edition. If you haven't caught their interview with Mark Cuban. I got to update that promo with the Cuban one. Just a lot of stuff going on. But they they interviewed the Don Fisher. That was a great interview. But Patricia and Sydney have done an awesome job of cataloging aspects of this whole run this season. Mike Kadick was on about a month and a half ago. So be sure to tune into Sideline Stories here on the Back Home Network. Two things. First of all, we need to get our sponsor reads in because we kind of blew right through that at the beginning. So apologies to our sponsors. Before I get to that, I do want to say I've been in a daze since the game ended. When Sharpe picks off that ball, I'll talk about this a little bit when we're doing the recap, but I had to do a dead sprint from section 327 of the stadium to get to the elevator on the other side of the stadium so I could go down and do post-game on the field. And, I'm running through all of these Miami fans, which, again, I'll talk about in a little bit. But from there, it was like their post-game field, upstairs, quick podcast, go meet my friends, then go out to the car, had to drop someone off, went to the team hotel for the party, never slept. Ended up, as many of you saw on Twitter, doing a champagne toast as the sun came up on the beach in Sunny Isles, and have barely slept since then. I think I got maybe 45 minutes later that morning, and then I got about 4 hours last night. But I've been such a daze, I just realized while we were doing this podcast, I didn't fill the rental car up with gas before I turned it in. So,
they'll let you know.
I know. I'm well aware they're going to. That's going to be an expensive mistake. But that's the days I think that I've been in. It's been hard to kind of do the basics as we try to re-enter life after such a euphoric high. Part of the reason we've had that euphoric high has been the insane championship merch drop that was performed by Home Field Apparel immediately after the game. The Good brand is an Indiana brand. Yes, they bring you other teams' stuff, and that stuff is very good. But Home Field has been there to document in clothing Indiana's run through the playoffs. And we heard Connor Hitchcock, the co-founder of Home Field, along with his wife Krista, talking about that when I interviewed him last week, where after that Oregon game, he sat down with his design team and his marketing team and was like, "Guys, it's all Indiana. This could be a special season." And when you think about what they've produced for the Big Ten championship game, for the Rose Bowl, for the Peach Bowl, and now for the national championship, there's some truly special stuff. You can pre-order the Indiana Hoosiers 2025 CFP National Championship bomber jacket, which I'm showing on screen right now. There's some great hats. There's amazing crew necks and T-shirts and long sleeve tees, different colors, different designs commemorating Indiana's 16-0 season and national championship. Go over to Home Field Apparel, place an order, or if you're in Bloomington, go to Trax. There's some sizes out right now. I have faith that they will restore those sizes, but use the code HOME23. Get 15% off your first order if you haven't ordered from Home Field Apparel as of yet. And I'm sure they're going to have some more stuff coming here that'll help to celebrate this Indiana season. And again, I just want to thank Home Field for being such amazing partners to Crimson Cast. Josh with the marketing team, obviously Connor, their whole social media staff. It's been amazing working with them, first at the Peach Bowl with that event at Hudson Grill, and then the two events that we took part in with them down in Miami at American Social in Brickell, and then at Mickey Burke's in South Beach. It was amazing watching so many IU fans come to and connect with each other over those events. It was great to have people from the home field cinematic universe like Stephen Godfrey and Richard Johnson and Lucy Roden join us for that event at Mickey Burke's. They helped to home field helped to set the platform to make those events possible. They did so much of the legwork, and I could not be happier to be partnered with an organization like Home Field, which has just amazing people working for it. People that love college football, many of people that love Indiana. It's great to have a brand like this that has been formed around Indiana football. I've always felt a kinship with Connor and his journey, given what we've tried to do with Crimson Cast over the years. And it's great to watch them being able to reap the benefits and be able to help to put great looking apparel on Indiana fans. We saw so much of it again all throughout the playoff run, and the national championship was no different.
Yeah, no, I remember meeting Connor very early on at his little studio place in Broad Ripple, banging out shirts on a single press. The kick was good. Like that was my fantasy football team name for years. It's awesome. And I also had a crazy post game. I didn't stay up as late as you did, but I had a bottle of Buffalo Trace in the car waiting for me and my friends when we got done, and we enjoyed that. I did enough just to enjoy, but then had to drive them home, went back to the Airbnb, had a couple of drinks with my wife, laying in bed at like 3:30 in the morning, not drunk, but just like in a tired haze, and just start scrolling through Twitter. And I see the jacket, that looks awesome. Pre-order, done, order. And then like, I ordered it, was like, perfect, go to bed. It was awesome. I wake up the next morning and I'm kind of like, rubbing my eyes, and I had actually ordered 2 other sweatshirts I kind of forgot about from Home Field, but I start looking at the jacket and I'm like, oh man, that's sick. Like, I'm so happy I ordered. Like, I didn't realize it has a logo on the sleeve. It's like, I'm seeing all these things with the jacket. I'm like, oh, wow, that's awesome. I'm so happy tired, drunk Scott ordered that last night, because there's things I didn't even know about it. It's amazing. The fact they had that stuff ready to go. I was thinking for a variety of reasons, I couldn't do what Connor does, but I couldn't do that because I'd be so scared of jinxing it. I'd be like, we can't pre-make stuff, so like just the designs wouldn't be ready. But it's amazing he had it, and there's a picture on Twitter from the Home Field account of Connor wearing that jacket in the stadium. Like he was prepared and ready, and I hope they sell that thing out 1,000 times over.
I'm sure they will. I have no question that they're going to sell that thing out 1,000 times over, and I look forward to seeing those on people when Indiana takes on North Texas for the first game of the season at Memorial Stadium next year. We'd also like to shout out our other primary sponsor for Crimson Cast, Posh Hotel Bloomington. It's not too late, or not too early, I guess, to start booking for football season next year. And if you're looking for a place to stay in Bloomington, why not stay in the finest of luxury accommodations in Bloomington? Posh Hotel Bloomington, located on the corner of Washington and Kirkwood. Great views of both downtown Bloomington and campus. Great amenities.
They have the Cignetti room, like the literally named Cignetti room downstairs. I talked to Elliot, their owner, before he was at the game. He's a huge IU grad, IU fan. They rented that room out for the national championship. They had a great party, and so that's something. Call them up, even if you're in Bloomington, don't want to stay at the Posh. What a better place if you're not going to the game or for any road game. Go to the Cignetti room, rent it out with your friends, or just see if you can go there and have a drink. And like that's the place you should be watching. Outside, there's other places too, but that's a great place to go, especially if you're a slightly older alumnus. Like the upstairs looks pretty rowdy these days. Go check out the Cignetti room.
Yeah. Go to Posh Hotel Bloomington, check them out on Instagram, and come down. We've had people who have found it for weddings, found it for sporting events, and we'd love to have you folks take a look and book for your next Bloomington excursion. Again, Posh Hotel Bloomington, located on Kirkwood Avenue. All right, Scott, let's talk about the game. And Indiana came into this game as an 8.5-point favorite, but of course, you couldn't just have the assembled media commentators say, you know what, Indiana's the number one team in all the power metrics. Indiana's the number one team according to the voters. They're playing a team that's talented but flawed. We're going to ride with the team that's been the best on the balance of the season. No, Indiana needed one last dose of outright disrespect from most of the assembled voices across college football. Thank you, folks. Thank you, pundits. Thank you, Nick Saban. Thank you, Desmond Howard. Thank you, Josh Pate. All the folks who are like, I'm rolling with Miami. We appreciate it.
Well, and I love how they just keep running out. Like with Ohio State, it's like, that's a big program. Those are some real 5-star athletes. I can't do that. And then we win. And then we play Alabama, and it's like, man, way more 5-star athletes. Like, that's the inertia of a real blue blood college program. They win. And then Oregon, it's like, it can't beat a team twice. Like, Oregon's hungry. Like, it's going to be tough. Then we win. And it was funny here. It's like they go back to like, well, these are real athletes. Like, these are real, like, Florida athletes are different, which, by the way, there's some real studs on that Miami team. But it's just like they ran out of reasons. But yes, Game Day just does not want to pick Indiana. And not that he's listening or cares, but like, shout out to Pat McAfee. Like, God bless you for just being there and picking us all along the way.
Yeah. I mean, just we do appreciate everything Pat's done for the program and for the fan base. He's been the voice that's advocated for IU in an arena filled with voices that can't wait to slap Indiana down at the smallest, possible inkling of doubt. It's
and it's also so funny because some of these, like Desmond Howard, I think after like the Alabama was like, like, and then Saban too is like, yeah, I'm done doubting Indiana. Like, they proved me wrong. And then it's like, cut to, I'm gonna pick Miami. It's like they can't do it anyway. Who cares? Like,
who cares?
Quick, by the way, keep picking against us. We'll go back to back.
I'm always reminded of, because we occasionally people will get into the comments of like, why do you care about what the outside folks say? Part of it is college football is largely a gossip sport. It's a sport that the ideas of what's going on in the sport are dictated by what the voices are saying. And obviously there's not a lot you can say at this point, but I'm reminded of, I'll go back to that 98 Super Bowl with the Broncos and the Packers. I remember Shannon Sharpe, who was on that Broncos team, talking after they beat the Packers. I think the Broncos were like a 13.5-point underdog in that game. And he's like, Mike Shanahan came to me when we figured out we were going to play the Packers 2 weeks ago. And he said, I know you like to talk, Shannon, but let's keep it under wraps. Let's not give them any ammunition. Let's show them what we can do on the field, and then you can talk. Indiana fans, talk your shit. Apologies for the language. All right?
Right.
Talk it. Now's the time. All right? Because, look, ultimately, I'm tired of all of the noise from people who don't really understand how good this team was, and they showed it on the field in this game. Yeah. So you look at the game, I was never on the train of thinking that this was going to be a blowout, to the point that I felt almost on an island there because so many people were like, yeah, we're going to blow out Miami. It's not going to be close. Everybody's saying, well, Miami's going to have to play a perfect game to win. I don't know that I ever really bought into that either. This is a talented team. It's a team.
I'll give you credit. Early on, I don't know if we said it on the pod, but early on when you and I were talking, we looked at the bracket. You highlighted this. Like, I could see Miami getting there. Yeah. Like, I remember you saying that, and you're like, I could really see Miami's a team you need to worry about, and they did. They were.
And this game really felt like one of those games where Miami was always a threat to gain a bunch of yards, and Miami was going to at some point make it hard on Indiana to do what they wanted to do. Miami outgained Indiana in this game, 342 to 317. Miami completed more passes than Indiana did. Miami was, obviously a lot of it came on the Fletcher long touchdown, but Miami rushed for 5.2 yards per carry. Indiana rushed for 2.9 yards per carry. There was a lot in this game that Miami did well. What Indiana did, though, was they made plays early. They established some dominance. They showed they weren't going to get pushed around. And then when Indiana had to make plays, they figured out how to make those plays. And when I think back to this game, and I was reminded of this watching the extended highlights from the national championship game, which Eddie Coten posted earlier this morning. We're recording this on a Wednesday. If you haven't gone to Twitter, go to Twitter, go check that out. I'll post a link to it in the Substack. It is delightfully profane, so if you are of a delicate sensitivity, it may not be for you. But what sticks out to me is how many different Indiana players made key plays in this game. We talked about Fernando Mendoza, but it was also Omar Cooper Jr. making clutch catches. It was also Charlie Becker making clutch catches. It was Kaelon Black breaking runs for first downs. It was Aiden Fisher getting sacks. It was
Riley Nowakowski.
Riley Nowakowski. And D'Angelo Pons, per normal. Lewis Moore. There were so many players that showed up in individual moments throughout the course of this game. And it was a fitting way for Indiana to pick off the victory because it was going to take all of those performances in order to be able to better a Miami team that had fully woken up from the slumber that they had played through during the regular season and was playing at a championship level. Indiana just happened to play at a higher championship level than Miami did over the full 60 minutes.
I mean, some just high-level thoughts for me from the game is, and I texted you a couple things during the game. It felt like in the second quarter there was a couple of times where it felt like Miami was close to getting in real trouble. Like I said, like there's a couple of like do or die moments. They had like 2 fourth downs, I believe, that they got, drives that didn't end up resulting in any points. But it felt like there was a fourth down, like on their 40 or something, where it's like, had they not gotten that and Indiana scores, it could have been 17-0 going into half. And it felt like, man, I was feeling good because it's like we're putting them in back against the wall situations in the second quarter. But I give Miami a lot of credit. I mean, they were causing a lot of problems for Mendoza. That defensive line was all over the place. They were stuffing our run in a lot of different areas. And then, when they broke free and scored, it's like, ooh, yeah, this team can go. But I give Indiana credit that every time Miami punched, they counter punched, whether it was special teams or Mendoza or the team. And, the end there was touchy, but I think the key to me was that Indiana never gave up the lead. I was nervous because it felt like for a while there, our defense was having a hard time stopping Miami, but we never got down. It was always, can we score to match? And we did. Just overall high level thoughts.
I didn't want, more than anything else, I didn't want this to turn into the Penn State game. And it turned into the Penn State game. That was the biggest comp from the course of the season. Like Penn State, as rough as their season had gone, had the dudes on both lines and had players that could make big plays. And that's exactly what happened. And it felt set up so well at halftime for Indiana to maybe go down the pathway where they could establish themselves as the dominant team in the second half. But you knew there was going to be a counterpunch, as there was in that Penn State game. And then it became a matter of figuring out how exactly do we make sure that we don't let this game get away from us the way it did in Happy Valley. And as close as this game was, Scott, I got to say, this was probably the most difficult football game I've ever had to watch as a fan. I mean, the Michigan game last year felt that way because that really felt like the precipice, the fulcrum point for last season, where it's like if you can beat Michigan, even though they haven't had a great season, it slays a lot of demons and it gets you over the hump. And that was such a tough game. It felt like every play was murder ball. This game felt the exact same way, but worse because of the stakes, because of the stage that Indiana was on. It was so emotionally draining in the stadium. You add in all those timeouts and how you're just left there to stew in your own juices. I'm taking walks up and down the seats or the stands and the stairs in my section, which I was doing in the Ohio State game as well. I'm just nervous. I feel like I'm being punched in the gut constantly. I'm up there with my sister and with Grace Ybarra and Stefan Krajnik. That's our little row up there in the upper section. We got fans around us, and it's like I almost feel like we're in a group therapy session half the time, just trying to console each other and trying to make sure that we don't lose ourselves or lose the plot. And every time you think Indiana's gotten it under control, it goes away. But then every time you think Miami might be swinging it back, Indiana makes a play. It was I would have not had it any other way. The game had to go that way to win a national title, but I would have loved a blowout as well. I mean, I could have taken a non-competitive game if Indiana had just like gone out and won 38-3, but I think this was what we needed. We needed this final hurdle in terms of having a tough game where Indiana overcomes all of the obstacles that they face throughout the course of the game. And that still resonates with me. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go back and watch this game for a little while, just because it was a very raw experience trying to process it in real time.
I kept saying, I was like, you knew it wasn't going to be easy. Like, you knew, I just kept saying that because like it did feel for most of the first half. And, you had that moment where you're up 10-0 going into half. And it's like, we could do the double score, score and then score. And you're starting the second half with the ball. It's like, man, we could be up 13-0, 17-0. It's like, you start thinking like 17-0 with us running the ball. Like, I don't know if you can come back from that. And then exactly like you said, I wasn't walking around. My thing is like, I'm standing, cheering, going nuts. Then every time out, I just sit down. Like I would just sit down. Like I needed a moment of just quiet to kind of center myself and come back into it. And it was gut wrenching because exactly like you said, Miami was always there and they never took the lead, but they had the ball multiple times where if they would have scored a touchdown, they would have had the lead. And, it was gut wrenching every time. And that last drive, I think back to the Ohio State game where, that Ohio State Big Ten title game, we get the Becker third down. It's like, oh, we got it. But it's like somehow we didn't get the next first down. So we have to kick, we give Ohio State the ball. They have no time. But it's like, God damn it. We're going to, like, somehow this is not going to work our way. And that last play, even the last play in the Ohio State game, is like the pass goes there. It's like there's a scrum. And it's like, go down. Like, and everyone, like, why are you not going down? They went down. They won. Same thing here where that entire drive, Miami has the ball. I'm like, it's just too much time. Like a minute 40, no time. That's a lot of time. Time wasn't moving. And I just keep thinking, as I'm sure a lot of Indy fans in general, like 28-27 is like all I can think. And like, this is going to sting. And then even when we get the interception, it's like, do we have enough room to kneel twice? Like, can we just not like, but again, I wouldn't have had it any other way, but we kneel the first one. And I'm like, what if there's not enough room to kneel? Like, what if we have to take a safety? What are we going to do? And then of course there was room, but same like you, like it was so tense. I preached this on a Substack video before of like, savor the moment, enjoy the time. And I did for most of the first half. The second half went by really fast and I wasn't able to savor it because I was so nervous.
Yeah. I don't know that I mean, it's funny when I went back and watched the extended highlights, there were about 8 plays I'd just forgotten about. A large section of the game, I feel like I'm going to need some kind of therapy session to like recall the memories in the moment because a lot of them are just in this large blur that exists for about 3 hours in my brain. Scott, let's go ahead and get to America's favorite segment.
Okay. It's now time for Recite the Drives.
Recite the Drives is brought to you by Jeremy Barbuto of Ironhorn Enterprises. Jeremy is buying commercial real estate. If you've got some to sell or would like to talk with him, give him a call, 315-436-3872. Jeremy at ironhornenterprises.com is how to get a hold of him. Jeremy, thank you so much for your patronage and your sponsorship of this segment throughout the course of the season. It's been great being able to connect with you at these postseason games, and we just appreciate you being such a longtime friend of the pod. And it's helped make this segment far more special than it was when Scott and I were just kind of playing around with it for a while. It's a great addition, permanently to what we do on Crimson Cast. Let's dive in, Scott. It's your time to shine. I'll let you go ahead and roll with these. Let me get the drives up, and here we go, Scott. You know what the people want. Let's get things started.
All right, we'll go quick, and then we'll take it team by team, I think. But you start. Miami has a 5-play. We're getting a lot of punts here. 5-play punt. Indiana gets the ball. 4 plays. punt. Miami gets it back, 3 plays, punt. Indiana has a great drive, 12 plays, 55 yards, 6 minutes off the clock, and it ends with a field goal. So you get a 3-0 game at that point. Miami 3 plays, punt. Indiana 3 plays, 1 yard, punt. Just not a lot happening. Miami 3 plays, punt. So back-to-back 3-play drives with a punt. You're in the second quarter now. Indiana 14 play, 85-yard. Double touchdown, I'll call, because that's the Charlie Becker stepped out, but what a play by Becker to like drag 3 guys on his back for a touchdown. Then Rylan Okowski does punch it in for the real touchdown. We have a touchdown. You're up 10-0. I think a lot of Indiana fans are like, okay, like, we've held Miami. Miami has at this point had a 5-play drive, 5 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays. Just not a lot going on here. And so, yeah, I will also just highlight that drive for Indiana with that touchdown. There's one thing I resaw that I kind of forgot in the moment, just another Stones call by Cignetti. Everyone's going to remember the double 4th down calls, but there's a call, and I'm 95% sure it was this drive, where there was an offsides, like 3rd and 11. Miami was offsides. It comes back 3rd and 7. And this is a drive where you need, got to get something. And he calls an inside run. And the run goes for a 1st down, and you keep going. But just what a call. Like, and it probably tells you that Cignetti is going to go for it on 4th down. And that's why you're making that call. But just the commitment to the run all year with this team, and it works. So just highlighting one play in that drive. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Miami gets it back. 9 plays, 43 yards. Their first really time of moving the ball. They miss a field goal. We get a doink, one of 2 doinks in this game.
It was one of the loudest doinks. I don't think calling it a doink is really doing it justice, Scott.
a donk?
I don't know. Yeah.
IU gets the ball back. 3 plays. An interesting play here where they let now I'm remembering this. They let the clock run down. They throw the ball. Then they call a timeout to basically set up a Hail Mary. Just an interesting call here. I say interesting because we are definitely at the point where, because Cignetti called it, it was the right thing to do. Like, far be it for me to ever question Curt Cignetti again. So just interesting. But anyway, we go to halftime. We're all feeling good. Start the second half. This is where Indiana had the chance to maybe put a real body blow out, but they go 6 plays, 6 yards. They punt the ball. Miami 2 plays, touchdown. Now we have a game. And it's funny, I don't remember it going this way. Your point, I remember going this way. You have 4 straight. Indiana 4 plays, punt. Miami 3 plays, 1 yard, and a punt. This is where the defense really steps up and helps this team out. Indiana 3 plays, 2 yards, punt. Miami backed up 3 plays, 9 yards, punt, but that punt was blocked for a touchdown.
Yep.
And so this is where I'd forgotten 4 straight punts. Punt was blocked for a touchdown. I will just say, not a genius here, but in my section, me and Tom and my wife were talking about Indiana, Jonathan Brady was fair catching everything, every punt. It's like, man, that's weird. And I'm like, well, I think they're going for the block. Like, they're not putting anybody back to block for Brady. They're going for the punt block. And it was before this one, I just elbow my buddy Tom, and I'm like, feels like a punt block here. And I give myself some credit for seeing that. I also I would have said that for every punt the rest of the game. So, right. And what's funny is then Tom literally, after this happens, jumps on his chair, then jumps on my back and is just smacking my head. Like, you called it. I lean over to my wife and I tell her, she's like, dude, I did the exact same thing to my friend Dawn. She's next to her friends, Dawn and John. And it's so love my wife for many reasons. In fact, she called that pump block as well. So anyway, pump block, Indiana is up 10 points, feels good. This is where the game gets funky, really crucial. Miami comes back, 10-play, 81-yard touchdown drive, just a very important comeback touchdown for them. Indiana just matching punch for punch, a 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. This is where you have the 4th down play where Charlie Becker catches it off on his side. But by the way, side note, when Becker makes a great catch, something amazing is going to happen later after that, because Becker quietly had a stone's catch in the Penn State game, like 2 plays before Cooper Jr. had his just unbelievable play. And the 4th down, I think it was like 4th and 8 or something, Becker has just, back shoulder. It's like back hip. Like how he catches it and pulls it in is wild, but it's not forgotten, but it's then overshadowed by the Mendoza run. So just keep that in mind next season. When Becker has a great play, it's like, oops, something better is going to happen before that. Where was I? So that was the Indiana touchdown drive. Miami responds. 8 plays, touchdown drive.
91 yards, too.
91 yards. It ended, I will say this, it ended with, I'm pretty sure that was the running back Fletcher, like a little inside run, wide open. From my angle, we were on the end zone that Mendoza had his drive to, so we're on the other, we're facing the field. Cignetti is on our side, and he sees something on the defense, and he's sprinting down to get a timeout. He doesn't get it. And then that is a wide open touch. Like whatever was the formation, he saw something. It's interesting because that timeout that he wasn't able to take, it did cost us probably a touchdown, or at least gave Miami a very easy touchdown based on formation, but it saved him that timeout for Miami's last drive, which we'll get to in a sec. I know it's like, Scott, shut up, do recite the drives. All right, Indiana gets the ball back. I mean, this is what I love about this game. From that punt block, you have a touchdown, field goal. And all of those were needed responses by each team. Just heavyweight teams, body blows, knockout shots here. But you have Indiana, a 11-play, 58-yard drive with a field goal. This is the play where you have the offside, or the offside that might have given us one more first down to just ice the game. But you have a field goal, puts Indiana up by 6. And then you have Miami last drive, 5 plays, 34 yards, the aforementioned timeout. And right after that timeout, you have the interception. And then, yes, Indiana has a 2-play kneel down. And we are the undefeated national champions of college football.
Nice job, Scott. No, a lot to dig in. I mean, I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is that fourth quarter. And is that the greatest fourth quarter in college football playoff history? I mean, this was one of the greatest games in college football playoff history. I mean, there have been some duds at this level. This was a heavyweight bout. I hate that cliche, but I can't think of a better way of thinking about it. But I mean, for the two teams, really going back to the very end of the third,
I'd say that last third quarter drive, you have touchdown, field goal, interception. Like in each of those, every one of those scores was absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it's really, I think, a testament to both teams, both coaching staffs, for exactly how they rose to the occasion at the end. And I think it makes Indiana's victory in this that much more impressive, because I mean, think about the mentality that you've got. If you are Indiana, you block a punt and recover it in the end zone for a touchdown. You're up 10, and the national championship is roughly 15, 16 minutes away at that point. And your opponent in their home stadium comes out and goes on a 10-play, 81-yard drive and scores a touchdown, and now it's back within 3. Then you go on a length of the field touchdown drive, and now you're up 10 again. Then Miami drives 91 yards in 2.5 minutes, and they score a touchdown. I mean, the level of just shoving your chips into the table.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Indiana, like they kick a field goal, but it's like that you could have it seep in your mind. It's like, damn it, if we would have gotten that last first down, this game's over.
Yeah, it's
and I mean, not to give who cares about Miami, but give them credit. After that punt block you're down 10, middle of the third quarter, outside of that one play, the 50-yard run for the touchdown, their offense up to that point had been punt, field goal missed, and a punt. With plays of 5, 3, 3, 3, I mean, 1 9-play drive and 3. So it's like, you're Miami. It's like, we haven't done jack all game, and now this place is going nuts. We just got a punt block. We've got to step up, and to their credit, they did.
Yeah, they did. And yet Indiana kept stepping up too.
Exactly.
And that, as we talked about at the beginning of this show, that's been the defining characteristic of this Indiana team this year, is that they have stepped up time and time again. and they have figured out ways to win games. They haven't had to do it a ton. They've been very dominant, but whether it was the Iowa game, whether it was the Oregon game, whether it was the Penn State game, whether it was the Ohio State game, this team keeps finding ways to step up when it matters. And they hadn't had a game like this in a couple of games. They'd had some walkovers in the previous 2 bowls. And so going through, listening to you recite the drives and thinking back on how all of that came together in this game is really special. You look at the statistics in this one, Scott, and I mean, what sticks out to me when I look at the individual player stats, Indiana gets 2 really solid games out of Kaelon Black and Roman Hemby. Black, again, was like the slightly better back for this particular type of game, but Hemby had a 15-yard run. Kaelon Black had a 20-yard run. They get great contributions from Omar Cooper, Charlie Becker, Elijah Surratt, Riley Nowakowski in the passing game. Defensively, I mean, Lewis Moore leads the team in total tackles. D'Angelo Pons, 5 tackles, 3 passes broken up. I think I read a stat where when Pons was isolated in coverage and Beck threw at him, Beck was 1 for 6 in the game. Just a masterclass from him. We talked about Aiden Fisher picking up the lone sack that Indiana got in this game, which was also their only TFL in this game. And Nico Radicic goes out, hits 2 clutch field goals. Mitch McCarthy actually had a really good game punting, 5 kicks for 241 total yards, a 48-yard average, 2 inside the 20, a long of 55. I mean, there was an interesting clip, which I got to go back and find. The punt, it was a later in the game punt, and McCarthy coffin corners it to the left corner. There's an all-22 shot. Miami had a fake set up, and if that punt had not been as good as it was, Miami probably scores on a 99-yard fake punt return, or not a fake punt, but a lateral play. People showed up, and there were just all of these little statistical touches that you go back and look at. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, someone will look at his stat line 10 years from now and be like, well, Mendoza really underperformed. But man, 16 for 27, 186 yards, didn't throw a touchdown, but ran for one and made the accurate throws that you needed to make on key plays, including those 4th downs to Charlie Becker that sustained drives and put Indiana in position to score. There were no exemplary, like, over-the-top statistical performances in this game. And if the shoe had been on the other foot and Miami would have won, people would be talking about Mark Fletcher running for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. They'd be talking about Malachi Toney with 10 catches and a touchdown and 122 yards. And those, frankly, are performances you should talk about, period. Those were great individual efforts. But Indiana's collective statistical contributions in this game, added to the fact that Indiana held the ball for 36 minutes and 24 seconds in this game. They had a 13-minute time of possession advantage over Miami in this game. I mean, that helped in that 4th quarter because Miami's defense looked a bit gassed at points, especially in the linebacking core. It made a huge difference that Indiana was able to maintain that level. They basically out-Miami'd Miami at the time of possession game in this one.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting. I think like 7 of the first 12 plays were passes. For a team that's so run heavy. They came in and obviously saw something of like a lot of short passes to open up the running game, which again, we went back to committing to the run. Highlighting again, Mikhail Kamara with the punt block, just so happy for him. He had the sack in the Rose Bowl. He had the block here for someone who's, I think, played really well all season, hasn't had the same statistical, impact that he had last year, but I think he's had a game impact and just been there the entire game. Big catches by Charlie Becker. The thing that the team stat thing that stands out to me that I think was a big part of this is Indiana's defense was stepping up when they needed to on 3rd down. I think Miami finishes 3rd down conversions. They were 3 for 11, but I think at one point they were 0 for 8 or 0 for 9. I mean, that was a big thing that we were noticing is they just were not able to get anything done on third down. They ended up getting 3 of 11. Still not great. Indiana 6 for 16. Not great for Indiana, but still better. Miami put Indiana in a lot of third and long situations, which they were not most of the year.
Yeah.
But again, to the quality of this game, Miami 1 for 1 in red zone scores. Indiana 4 for 4. Not a lot of empty. Once teams got there, they got it done.
Yeah, and the one other thing I'll note, in addition to, I'm glad you brought up the fact that Indiana did such a great job of stopping Miami on third down. I mean, they picked up some late in the game, but those early stops helped Indiana to build the lead that they never surrendered. The one other thing I'll say is that Indiana didn't play a perfect game,
right,
in this one. I mean, they
Rat had a big drop on third down.
Yeah, and I mean, Carter Smith had that false start on the first and 10 in the fourth quarter. There were a couple of other plays where Indiana made mistakes that they never really got to Beck except for one time all game. But they didn't need to play perfect in this one. They just needed to play well enough, and they still played more perfect than Miami did, as Miami not only shot themselves in the foot with some untimely penalties, but Carson Beck, when the game was on the line, it was funny, like that pass gets thrown, and I'm in the corner in the Indiana end zone. So they're going away from me. And that when he threw it, I was immediately concerned because there's a receiver streaking down the field. And when Sharpe intercepts the ball, I'm like, wow, what an amazing play. I had to go back and watch the replay at about 4 or 5 in the morning to realize how bad of a throw that was by Carson Beck. But it was a bad throw because of the defensive disguise that he had to read in order to understand that there was zone coverage over there and that Sharpe was going to be in perfect position to pick off a pass that was anything other than perfect. And so,
and from my perspective, I'm on the other end zone. So we're looking at it from like the all 22, basically behind Carson Beck. The minute he threw that, I'm like, that could be picked. I saw whoever the back safety was in the end zone. It's like, it's like, there's 2 guys there. Like I'm not even sure there was a pass that would have gotten to that receiver, but it would have had to have been absolutely picture perfect.
Yeah. So, just these are the things, and it's this combination of how Indiana calls the games in terms of plays.
Just real quick on that Sharpe interception. Did you see the video of Cignetti ripping his ass after the penalty? It's like, you've won the title. Like the title is effectively won, and Cignetti is just on him. It's like, love it.
So again, as I was saying earlier on in the episode, I missed. The interception happens. Our group has an incredibly emotional jumping up and down and crying segment there for about 2 minutes. And then I'm like I said, I got to get down to the field. So I missed the 2 kneel downs. Like I didn't even notice. And I had to go back and watch the replay. And I was like, wow, you're right, Scott. That was dangerously close to the end zone. So Cignetti was right in saying, like, yes, you can't do that there. But fortunately, it didn't matter. And
but it's also like Sharpe intercepts it. He has run 10 yards forward and then kneel. Like he goes back and it's just like he really put us tight there.
It didn't matter at the end of the day. It's something else, man. So anyway, Indiana wins. Great celebration at the end. It is funny. I still haven't heard the post game. Now you in the stands were hearing the audio. Right. You could not hear the audio on the field. Like I was shooting video, and you can't. I'm lip reading Curt Cignetti to try to figure out what he's saying. I can't hear anything that Fernando says. But
it was pretty normal for those of us in the cheap seats, not on the field with confetti in our hair. It was pretty standard stuff. The only thing is Fernando said the F word. I'll leave it. I mean, I can definitely say it, but we'll try and keep it kid friendly here. He's like it was like freaking out. He said.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. And what's funny is that, like, after that, people are like, the post game are asking, what was it like to say? It's like, I think he cusses. It's acting like your 12-year-old. Side note, there's also real quick tangent. Just the Fernando stuff is funny because again, I think people get a little caught up in his all shuckness, and it's like, no, there's a real dude there who's got stuff, and like. There's video of him and Mike Kadick at a club that night, like getting bottle service and enjoying themselves, which is like great. Enjoy it, man. But there's this like banter on Twitter, like, man, what? Like I thought Fernando was a church boy. What's this Indiana kid doing? And then it's like people are like, well, he's at a strip club, and people from Miami are like, oh no, it's not a strip club. It's just a club where women take their clothes off. From Indiana, like, that's a strip club. Anyway, sorry.
I've missed that. I must be in a different corner of the internet than you. That's funny. Anyway, the
rest of the post game was pretty standard. Nothing else that really stuck out to me. The only thing that, as someone in the stands, that was a bummer was they do it all, and then they cut the audio and they start playing they start playing some piped in music. And then I see Aiden Fisher, start the 1-2. You know what to do. It's like, I wanted us to all be able to do that, and we couldn't sing along with them because it's like they're blaring whatever music through the PA. So as the fans didn't get to do that like we did in the Rose Bowl and the Big Ten title game and the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, I think back of the celebrations and the different things we saw in the 3 games. I mean, this one, it was really emotional down on the field. Like, it was, people were thrilled, as you would be after winning a title, but it was also just this kind of sense of unreality. I mean, I went down, and I don't normally do like interviews. I go down to like hear what people are saying. I'll listen in on some things. I'll occasionally ask some questions, but it was just surreal watching all of the confetti fly from ground level. It's shooting over your head. There's this huge scrum, but it's kind of pushed back because they've got to have room for all the players below the podium, and you got everybody up there on the stage. I thought it was a really interesting touch that the group that lifted the trophy was largely the JMU transfers, that core group that had been with Cignetti the longest. But that all gets done, and I'm kind of wandering around, and I'm seeing all kinds of people down on the field. Rhett Lewis is down there. We had a moment. Ben Portnoy was down there. We had a moment. All of the student media members that were reporting on the game, like talking to them, and I'm just being like, go out and do great work. Like, go cover this. Like, go write a great story or go do a great package, and try to capture this as best as possible. And I posted this picture in the immediate aftermath on Twitter. Like, I just ended up sitting down, and I'm sitting down. There's like confetti all around me. I'm at about the 50-yard line. And you just kind of take it all in, and it's like, I mean, I'm not part of the team. I can't imagine what they were feeling, but as someone who's been along for the ride as a podcaster and I guess as the unofficial cultural liaison of IU football, to be able to sit there, co-cultural liaisons with Scott, to be able to sit there and just kind of let it all wash over me, sitting on the field with all of this going on around you was something I'll never forget. And I can only imagine, it's like one of those things where you're so glad you're there, but I also wish I was up in the stands watching it from there, because when you're down there, you can't really see a lot. You can see, and that I will say the one thing I wanted to shout out in all of that, I was looking for you in the stands, and then I realized I had no clue where your seats were. I saw Trisha Whitaker. She was over in the corporate section. And found her. We took a couple of pictures from like 50 feet away because there was a barrier there. But looking around and seeing all the IU fans in the stands, I mean, if you had any question about how many IU fans were actually there, it was a ton of people. It was 70% of the stands felt like it was Indiana people, and just like they'd done in Atlanta, and just like we did in Pasadena, they all want to stick around and watch the party, as they should. So it was just. It was an overwhelming set of moments, but it was also it was something that will, I think, I'll have to process it from different angles over the course of the next several weeks, just to kind of get back in touch with all the emotions and all the thoughts that were going through my head in that moment.
Yeah, it was just euphoric in the stands. The only thing that was a bummer was, I was on we'll call the Indiana side, by the Indiana end zone. The other side was where the Miami band and their fans were. Like, they set up the celebration in front of us, but facing the other way. So it's like all we see is the back. And it's like, guys, it's not like the stage can be moved because you moved it out there. Like, just turn it around and have it facing. But I guess maybe they want the backdrop of the fans for the TV broadcast. But so that was the only thing that was a bummer. Is like, we didn't see anything. We just saw the back. So you're just watching the video. It's I have pictures. I have pictures of every jumbotron of like the Big Ten, the Rose Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and this one of just the Indiana champs and like the confetti. And it's just like, I'm just sitting there like, I cannot believe this. And they're playing We Are the Champions. And it's like, that's it. And in the stands, it's this weird obviously people are crazy euphoric with the interception when it's over. And it's like, oh my God, we actually won. And then it kind of just, there's these weird ebbs and flows where you kind of just take a breath, you're listening, and then you're just like, dude, we won the title. Like you just have, it's like, we won it. Like you hug and you go nuts again. And then, you're kind of, that's the only weird thing. You see it on the field too for everybody. It's kind of like there is, for those who were not there, there's not like all right, time to go. Like you're just kind of, people just start filing out. And I didn't want to leave. Yeah. At some point you're just like, I have to cut the cord and go. But even I walked out and then I walked back in a little bit and just looked around, and it's like, all right, you get to a point where it's like, all right, this is, there's nothing more I can soak in, I don't think, but I know I'm not going to want to leave, but it's more just because I don't want it to end. And so if you're cool, I want to transition to this, because then we started talking about, and you said you had something from Trisha to talk about this. Like, this is there's kind of I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like, we're here. We've won a title. And as you said, like, we're not players. I don't get a ring. We don't get any more money. We get to talk about it. I could talk smack to my friends, but there is this kind of like, man, not like, is that, I'm not gonna say that's not all there is, but it's just like, it feels like I'm really sad that it's over. I desperately want to go back and relive that day. I know that I took my time and I savored it. I know I did, but I still feel like I didn't do it enough because it's over and I'm not there. Yeah. I fully get. I remember that last drive thinking the pain of losing is going to be worse than the joy of winning. Like if I sit here with my son, my friend, like everything we've put into this team, how much I love these guys and love this team and love what they've done and love the story, just have to watch them lose 28-27 and watch Miami celebrate. Like I don't know how, like that is, the problem is I know what that feels like, because we've been through not pain like that, but we've been through a lot of pain. So it's like, I know what that feels like. It's just going to be magnified by 20, but there is a bit of like, I'm almost sad now, because I know this team is like, so talk me through this. Galen, you said you had some thoughts. So like, yeah. I hope other people are feeling this too. And maybe we can end with a therapy session on good problems of how the hell you deal with being a champion.
I mean, no, it's funny because there's just this aura of unreality. And what you said about when Indiana kicks the field goal and it's 27-21 and there's 3 minutes left or whatever, or maybe 2 minutes left.
40, yeah, it's
something like that. The details are unimportant, but I remember thinking, I've seen this script before.
Yeah.
Yes, I mentioned Stephen Godfrey he mentioned this on the podcast he did on College Football Inquirer, where he said, I met a lot of IU fans at all the IU events I went to, and they all seem convinced like this is a one-shot thing, and yeah, he's like, it doesn't have to be. You guys can come back. Like, you're good enough. You're going to be here again. And what I would say in response to that is, yeah, I think objectively that's true. Curt Cignetti just got a commitment from a 4-star tight end from New Pal today. I mean, the roster's getting restocked. They're going to be good for a long time. But it's what Godfrey said. I think it's the hardest thing for people outside of IU to understand about the psychology of longtime IU football fans. And it is this idea, and I'm going to quote myself being quoted in the Ringer article that Joel Anderson published.
They spelled your name wrong in one of the quotes too.
Fine.
By the way, he did a Seinfeld thing. We're the Crimson Cats. But go ahead.
I love it.
Yeah, I know.
The quote is, the whole history of Indiana is Lucy pulling the football.
Yeah.
And you think about all of those moments, and they were small moments. I mean, no, in the big cosmic scheme of the universe, losing the Pinstripe Bowl doesn't really move the needle. Losing the Gator Bowl doesn't move the needle. However, those were the moments that Indiana had a chance to do something, and you had a chance as a fan to feel connected to an accomplishment that you could point back on with pride. And despite the fact that we've had so many of these moments this year, all the ones that we've rattled off, all of the games that happened this season where Indiana didn't let Lucy pull the football, where they went out and just outplayed the opposition and won the game. I think we needed this win to finally put to bed that lurking devil in the back of our brain that constantly says something bad's going to happen and you're going to be sad. And
or you're gonna have, you know, that 2020 season, like it's a great season, but you lost the Outback
Right.
Bowl. It always ends with a loss.
Yeah. And so I just look at it and I say to myself, I believed that they could win, but I needed to see them win and experience it to be able to finally bury that. And I don't know if I actually buried it. Maybe that'll always be there as I move forward in my fandom and my observations of this team. But it really felt it was the ultimate in sport catharsis when Sharpe picked off that ball and you realized that it is over. Indiana has won. And, you know, I'll quote Sam Story, longtime friend and longtime IU football fan. I texted him. I was like, how are you doing? How are you processing everything? And his quote was, it's really hard to grasp. And none of it was luck. Indiana football was just better than everyone. And it's really hard to believe. I'll quote Trisha Whitaker from Sideline Stories and the larger Back Home Network Cinematic Universe. You know, trying to talk about the feeling. This was last night. It's this weird feeling of being exhausted, but not wanting the high to end and not wanting to miss out on anything or everything. And it is this weird feeling, I think, for those of us who have this emotional connection to IU football, because if you expected an immediate feeling of bliss and euphoria, I don't think that that's how it works. And I think instead it's, to me, what I said to her in response was, to me, yeah, being on the field was awesome. Being in the stands, watching the game and celebrating with really close friends and family was important. What I have enjoyed the most and what I'm getting the most out of, and what I think I will continue to get the most out of, is being able to talk about the game and the experience of being an IU football fan after the fact with so many people. I mean, I had a long conversation with Grace well after the game about just how improbable it all felt, but how exciting it all was and like how to process all that. I was talking with a bunch of random fans that I saw at the airport. I ran into a couple on the street in Miami Beach when I was getting breakfast the next morning. And you just kind of like, wow, can you believe that? And hey, you remember this game or this play or this moment from the season? And who would have thought? There's just so many of those things that to me is the resonance of this. Like, it's the emotional resonance of being able to reflect on moments and hearing you talk about the moments that resonated the most with you and your family, and me being able to talk about what resonated the most with me, and being able to talk with people I've never met before in the airport about what made it so special. That's, I think, what's going to be the feeling that dominates everything moving forward, is those of us who were there in real, time, or those of us who watched the game. I think the tapestry that gets woven in your brain and in your heart about this Indiana football team and this season is the memories that you share with other people and the ability to talk about it with people. And it's a touchstone we'll have for the rest of our lives with the people that cared. And that's where I'm not expecting some big, resolution, I guess. I'm not expecting there to be an end feeling that I have settled on. It'll probably mutate a bit over time. But I'm excited because, as I said in one of my group chats, as we were talking through this and trying to figure out how to process it, Matt Cohen noted, like, we get to relive this whenever we want. We get to enjoy this football team and season for the rest of our lives, even though we'll never watch them play together again. And, Stefan in the same group chat was like, it's weird now how life just goes on. And my response to that was, it goes on, but at the same time, everything has changed forever. And that's what I'm trying to get my head wrapped around. And I don't think we know what forever is going to look like or feel like, but I know it's going to be celebratory and exciting, and it's something that we'll always be able to point back to this moment as fans and be like, wow, I'm so glad that I was able to experience that, and I'm so glad that this was the team that allowed us to experience it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I told you, I'm sad to do this podcast because it's kind of the end of the process in my mind. Is like now we get back to real life. And I like you. I don't want the high to end. Like I want it to be still. I want to be scared about getting through security to get to the game because the game's ahead of me. But it's like it. But it's there's a ghost Scott who doesn't like. I want to go back and do it because I know what happens. At the time, it's like I was so excited for the game to go because I didn't know what was going to happen and I wanted it to happen. And it's so funny you talk about the world moving on. I'm sitting there this morning. My son threw on Get Up because they have a late start, so he has like 20 extra minutes. And I was telling him like it's so funny how like there was a title yesterday is all coverage about Indiana, and like today it's just Get Up. It's like they're just talking about the Giants and It's like just we're back to normal BS talk about the NFL and Harbaugh and the Giants and like how's this going to go and. It happens every title, every year. It's like this big, and so it is. I feel that it's tough to get back to it, but I'm with you in that idea of we're going to get to live this over. And I go back to what I said at the beginning of the pod is like Mendoza's always going to make that touchdown, and we can go back and rewatch it, and it's always going to happen. We're always going to have that, and I think from an IU football perspective. Hearing you talk about this is helping. You're helping me, man. Because what I'm internalizing and also realizing is so much of my fandom, I was still, 10, 11 years old when they won the Copper Bowl. It just wasn't as significant to me at that time. And it's also not like you could talk a little smack about the 80s. It's like I wasn't that much. I was younger. The 87 national championship. At least that's a national championship. It wasn't a lot of like, hey man, we won the Copper Bowl. Like that wasn't a great like talking point. And so I'm realizing how much of IU football is kind of these like, happy but sad moments, almost like, Inside Out, where the emotion has two, where it's like 2020 was a great season, but I have a hard time decoupling the loss of, the Outback Bowl. And then also just that next season of just getting throttled at Iowa. It's like the happy and sad moments are always mixed together. And you think back to like, the Austin Starr kick. It's like, man, that got us to a bowl that we lost. Or that season was fun. We went to the Pinstripe Bowl, but we lost that. And knowing that, in the future, we're not going to go undefeated forever. There will be a loss. There will be a season we make the CFP and maybe lose in a bowl game. But it won't feel as dire, or I hope it won't feel as dire, because I can always look back and be like, well, but I had the 2025, 2026 season. Like I know what that feels like, and there will be a better day ahead. And realizing I never really had that before, because it was always, this is an inside out core memory that is all just happy. That sadness hasn't touched it. It's just whatever the color was for happy, green or whatever in that movie.
Well, the one thing I'll say, Scott, and I know that we haven't talked about this officially. I hope I'm not making any surprise announcements for the podcast, but football podcasts aren't ending. All right.
I know.
Like, when I said everything changed, one of the things that's changed is this team deserves the same off-season coverage and talk that big college football programs get. So Crimson Cast football coverage ain't going no place. Like there's a whole second part to this. This is only part one. Right. All right. There's a whole meta conversation we need to have about Curt Cignetti, about Indiana's place in the college football landscape, about the way the game has changed, about the philosophical things that we drew from this, and as well as what's going on in the transfer portal, as well as what's going to be happening as Indiana gets ready for spring ball here in a couple of months.
Well, to your point, the perception has changed. I was thinking about this morning. You look at the top 10 for next year, Indiana is there. And I will say this, for all the talk, not getting picked this year and taking time to get there, something has changed, because when you look at what Indiana's losing, you're losing Mendoza. You're losing all of these guys on defense. Fisher, Kamara, probably losing Pons to the NFL. A running team. You're losing Hemby and Black. Like you're losing basically, a lot of it. And you're bringing in a lot of new players who are all good on paper. In a previous world, you would just say, well, Indiana lost all their good players. Their new players, I don't know if they can figure it out. We'll rank them 23rd. Like that's the old world. the amount of respect that Cignetti has earned is just like, hey, Indiana's number one because Cignetti knows what the hell he's doing. I mean, like, you look at other teams that are ranked lower next year, it's because they lost a lot. They brought a lot in the portal, but we don't know if it's going to mesh. That's a very normal theme. The fact that Indiana has now gotten to the point where it's just assumed what they're bringing in is going to work, I do think is a huge change in how we're perceived. And the fact that we'll probably start next season, I mean, in the top 5, but probably number 1, is a real testament to that.
Yeah. There's so much exciting stuff on the horizon. I can't wait to talk about it.
And the other thing I want to put a pin in, in the next podcast, I do want to talk about, where do you memorialize this season and the 2020, I don't know, the 2025 or 20, like this national championship in Memorial Stadium? Like, how do you do that? Because we've joked about it. It's serious. Like, they have the winning bowls on the side next to the, Tobias Nutrition Center. Like, that stuff's got to be moved to the middle. You need it inside the bowl. And in a weird way, it almost legitimizes all those other ones where it's like, yes, highlight the Copper Bowl championship, like highlight all of this stuff, all of the history, all of the bowls that we've made, the 2 Big Ten titles, put them up there with this one. Like, we need a ring with all of the dates. A lot of it'll say 25 and 26, but we've won the Big Ten 3 times now. They should all be up there. And when by the way, when this offseason's done, we'll have 2 national championships, because I know we're going to push for the 45 one, right?
That's right. That's the next campaign, right?
I mean, that would be just a great, just touch of, like, we put the national, we're going for 2. Like, it's our second, actually. Sorry, guys.
There's so much fun stuff to talk about coming up, and we will be doing that. And we are grateful to all of you folks in the audience.
Yes.
This is a 2-hour nearly podcast that we did today, and it's we could do 2 hours simply thanking all of the folks who are out there for helping to make this possible. I mean, it's been a long odyssey. I almost feel sheepish when people are coming up to me randomly and be like, "Man, you guys deserve this. You and Scott deserve this."
I'm like, dude, you do. We all do. Like,
yeah, it's been a true pleasure and an honor for us to be able to bring fans together and to give you all a place to talk football, and for you to be such a huge part of the show, and to have been on this particular ride with you over the course of these last 2 years. It's the most meteoric rise in college football history. It's the most meaningful transition of a program in college football history. And the fans that have been out there from the beginning, we like, you guys are right here with us, and it's been so fun being a part of it and feeling like we've got your trust, that we're going to talk about the team in a way that's respectful and positive, but not ridiculous. I mean, we'll be critical when we need to be critical, and you all know that, but what's to be critical about? Indiana is the 2026 national champions. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts to everybody, whether you're listening on Apple or you're watching along on YouTube or Spotify, whether you've been with the program since 2009 or whether you've been watching us for 6 weeks. It's truly been an honor to help to catalog Indiana football and to help to bring to some of you who haven't been able to make the games what's been going on at the games. And if I could do this for a full-time job for the rest of my life, I would. This has been a hobby, but it's been a hobby that has been so fulfilling. And it hasn't been fulfilling because we get to sit here and yap online for hours at a time. It's been fulfilling because of the reaction from you fans, and because of the interactions and going out and seeing you folks out there, and how positive and how enthusiastic you've been about everything that's happened and about what's going on with the show. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for letting us be in your lives and letting us be a conduit of sorts for your feelings about IU football. It's something I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
I completely agree. I almost don't want to say anything because I'm just rehashing exactly what you said, but no, it's been so, that's the thing that I've really, one of the things that I'll take with me is through this whole run, how many people have come up to me. And it's one of the things that I've actually enjoyed about being on YouTube is I'm getting people just saying, love listening to the show, and then telling their stories. Like we do this because it's fun. We like it. You and I both have enjoyed talking about sports. It's way more in your professional wheelhouse than mine, but we go back to doing it in college. But hearing people come up and say, talking to people at the event, Monday, and it's like people say, like, connected with my parents on this. I got my wife into it, and like we listened to you together. You've helped me get through so many bad times and good times, and it means more than you know. And a lot of times, I may not show it in public just because I'm with family or friends. Hey, thanks so much. Hey, dude, great. Like it means more than you understand. Because I think you said this in one of your earlier pods, I don't think we all realized how many of us there were, like how many football fans there are, IU football fans there were out there. We're all suffering in silence or suffering in our own. And to know that people care and listen, and just having that reaction and the camaraderie, it means a ton. So from the bottom of my heart too, it's like, thank you. And all interactions have been positive and nice. I love it all. So it means a ton to me as well. So thanks.
Like I said, we're not going anywhere. More podcasts coming. We'll have part 2 of this coming up later on this week.
No rat poison for this podcast.
No rat poison here. There's a championship celebration on Saturday. We'll talk more about that. And all across the Back Home Network, be sure to tune in for the finest.
And the trophy's going to be around Bloomington. It's in Kroger today, Walmart tomorrow. Go see it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks to all of our friends and colleagues at the Back Home Network, Jared Morris, Coach Tonsoni, Andy Phillips, Andy Bottoms, Ryan Phillips. Sorry, Andy. Trisha Whitaker, Sydney Parrish, Olivia Ray, who has helped to give us some great content over the course of this playoff run. Rhett Lewis, just many people that I'm not mentioning. Eddie Small producing over on Assembly Call. It's a great group, and we really love
doing the gambling.
Yeah, James Turner. I forget James. The fact I got a chance to watch the Peach Bowl with James in person, it will be one of my favorite memories from all of this, because that's a guy I used to watch games with as my college roommate, and it's a family affair in a lot of ways, and so to be able to bring all of that together, and again, thanks to my wife Katie and to my kids Eris and Sienna for they've gotten fully into the fandom. I bought Eris a Mendoza jersey at the beginning of the year. Apparently she put it on Friday and refused to take it off until after the game. So it's been so much fun. And I know you feel the same with your family, and it's I respect you for bringing them and putting them, first in this whole experience, to make sure that they get the memories that you and I never really got a chance to form when we were kids, because these sorts of things didn't happen.
Right.
So anyway, more coming. Stick with us here on Crimson Cast and the Back Home Network. We will go ahead and wrap up for today. The Hoosiers of Indiana are the 2026 College Football Playoff National Champions. It's been a joy. We will catch you folks on the flip side. For Scott, I'm Galen. Stay never daunted. So long, everybody.